y'all. Welcome to another new edition of Chalk Talk. This week's guest is another Texan. It's Coach Zach Kelley out in Cedar Hill High School. He comes by way of Oregon, and his journey has taken him to the Lone Star State, where they play the best high school football. I even have my Texas Longhorns hook them on for you, Coach. I know you guys got the TTHL, but welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us, man.
Man, I'm just excited to be here, and be able to do this during this pandemic. I appreciate y'all having me.
Definitely, man. We're all trying to stay busy. I know as coaches, we're all itching to get back out there on the field. I know that you've been doing a number of virtual clinics all the while. Your wife is getting close to having another baby, so congrats to you. But just talk to us about the coaching journey. I know you're Oregon native, and how did you end up in Texas?
Man, it's funny. When I stopped playing high school ball, I had a couple opportunities to go play Division II football, but they were all the way in Minnesota. So at that point, I kind of decided to end my football career, and I actually went back to coaching. Just about a year out of it at my high school alma mater. So I was doing college, and I was starting my coaching career. So I was starting coaching basically when I was 18. So I coached there. I got my degree, and we had my wife's mom lived in Texas. I had heard a couple coaches talk and just knew Texas football, high school football was where it was at. So, man, I said, you know what, let me finish college, let me get my degree, and let's go ahead and move to the Lone Star State, and let's see what it's all about, man. I tell you what, it hasn't disappointed one bit.
That's awesome, man. What has it been like? I told you beforehand, I'm married a Texan. I've been out to a number of games. We always schedule our Christmas vacation so I can go to the state championship. So I got to watch some Duncanville North Shore this year. But what has that been like? It was a bit of a shock for me when I first headed out that way.
Man, that's all it is. The biggest thing that I love that, gets me real excited, man, is the atmosphere. Playing in the Northwest, yeah, you had a decent crowd, but, it was about a couple hundred people here and there. But you compare that to, like, when we play the team out east, man, it's packed, thousands of people, just a big rivalry game. 6A football, man, you can't beat it, in Texas. It's huge. It's a big deal. Everybody cares about it, and it's just fun to go out and do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know we were talking, too, just about different coaching styles and coaches who are more of the teacher type. I was a Tony Dungy guy. He was kind of the person I wanted to model myself after, soft-spoken, and just the care that he showed players, the class that he carried himself with. But how would you describe yourself as a coach? You a yeller? You a challenger? What would your players say?
Man, I think if they were going to talk about me, they'd say I'm a relationship-oriented coach, man. I'm a relationship-oriented teacher. As much as, I see it every time somebody gets a new job and they want to come in and start tearing everybody up, let them know that they're a tough guy. My personal philosophy has been, you can't really tear into a kid unless you got that relationship. So, it takes a lot for me to go off the handle and just kind of lose my mind. But for the most part, I'm gonna talk to the kids. I'm gonna try and actually teach them and show them how to be better. I think I'm hoping that's how they describe me now. I got my moments. Yeah. I won't lie about that. But, I think for the most part, that's what they'd be saying about me.
Yeah, we all got our pet peeves. I also know that you coach softball. So talk to me about being a football coach, your running backs coach, Cedar Hill, then also coaching softball, the difference between guys and girls. Are you different on each of those fields?
I'll tell you what, I am a little bit. I really am. It takes a lot. I'll have my moments in football where I'll scream and yell, and when I coach the girls, when I coach the softball team, all they need is a good talk. Like, they just need a good talk. They need to let them know, again, the expectations. I don't have to yell. If I yell, I think they shut me out, but again, I think it is always a little bit different just how you work with boys versus how you coach girls. It's always a little bit different, It's we got some tough softball players. I'm not going to lie. I think I could yell at a couple of them, but I let them know the expectations. I just communicate my message a little bit different.
Yeah. I was telling you the virtual clinic that I caught a piece of was the football scoop one you did. And you had a quote that players are like snowflakes. They're all different. And so kind of along those lines, softball and football, how do you take that into account? How do you interact with all the sorts of different personalities and player types out there?
I hear that. For me, it's always been, again, like I said, each kid is different. So I really got to change how I go about it. But first, you got to really know the kid. You got to be able to talk to the kid and start with that relationship. Okay, this kid I could yell at and he'll come to me the next day. He'll say, "Sorry, sir." He'll say, "Sorry, coach," and then he'll move on. Then there's one, if I yell at him, I lost him for the day, maybe even for the week. Yeah. So, just really building those relationships and figuring out how you could handle each kid in different scenarios really dictates, again, you're finding out how they're different, before you go into it. So that's a big thing for me. That's probably the biggest lesson that I ever learned coaching, man, is you got to treat everybody a little bit different. Same expectations, same high standards, whether it's football or softball, whatever we're trying to do. Again, we're trying to win and be the best. But, you got to figure out how you go about that. And that's something, again, I remember going to one of PJ's flex practices when he was in Michigan, rowing the boat, man. And, he put how and everything and why. So that's something that really stuck with me. So you always got to go back to, how can I approach this kid and, why is it that way?
Yeah. Do you have like some examples? I think it'd be interesting just on how you've been able to build relationships with kids, maybe your running back group there at Cedar Hill.
Yeah, for the most part, it's the big thing that I do is I try and make sure that there's time where we're not talking football, especially in cutthroat competitive Texas high school football, man. It's win or it's almost like a college, competition. If you don't win, you're gone. Yeah. So everybody gets caught up on the football aspect. Well, realistically, how I approach coaching is just trying to change lives. So I make sure that I talk to each kid. And, for example, we had, I learned about one kid. I found out about his family situation. And I kind of thought about that, they'd be up and down some days. Okay. So I talked to another kid, their family situation is a little bit more secure, a little bit more solid. So now I know, their background, what they're working with. Because again, as adults and coaches, we tend to forget that kids have stuff going on. As much as we just want to blow it and say, oh, well, it's just kid problems, it's really not just kid problems. So I'm trying to find those problems. I'm trying to talk to each kid individually, not about football. There's a time for football, but then there's a time to try and develop those relationships so that way you know how to coach the kid.
Yeah. I mentioned this on past podcasts. My father was a coach, and I remember watching him with his players, specifically when like a guy would be having a bad day or be mouthing off or giving him attitude or just, BSing his way through a drill. And my dad's first response was always to put his arm around the kid, which is not something you do during a drill, during a football practice.
Right.
And ask him like, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? And it's kind of awkward in a football setting, but it always told his players, like, I care about you more as a player, or excuse me, as a person than I do as a player, which it allows the players to feel comfortable kind of sharing what they're going through. And you don't have many kids BS their way drill if like, hey, coach is going to put his arm around me and check in on me. So I think it's an interesting thing. We talk about it a lot with our team. We had you do what we call a quarantine video during this pandemic, during this COVID crisis. And you talked about playing video games with your guys on Madden and checking in on guys. What has it been like coaching during the coronavirus?
Man, you're trying to do is the best that you can. I had a meet with my running backs, and we talked about one run play. We had a little meet and had some cut ups for them. Just trying to get those little moments of football and just make sure that the kids are okay. Make sure that their family's okay. Make sure that everybody's doing all right. I mean, it kind of goes back to I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but again, it's all about that relationship. You just got to keep maintaining that relationship, whether I'm trying to talk to my guys that are about to be seniors. I got 5 guys that are about to be seniors playing on the varsity level. I got 3 or 4 freshman running backs that I'm trying to talk to as much as possible, texting them, letting them know that I'm thinking about them, letting them know that Coach Kelley's still thinking about y'all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I heard you talk about culture earlier, and I think that goes back to building relationships too. Another thing that I think you do well with your program is the branding. And we talk about e-team sponsor branding and growing our brand so people know who we are and what we're about. What does it mean for you to build a brand as a high school football program, but even as a coach? What does that look like?
Man, I'm going to be honest. I was pretty blessed, to come into Cedar Hill and, the brand was already established when I got here. So we always talk about trying to build the brand, grow the brand. So that's something that, that we're trying to do, always putting our kids in social media. It really starts from the top with the head coach. Coach Carlos Lynn's a great man. And, he instills in all of us, to have a little, try and figure out what your piece is to build and grow this brand. So, it starts at the top, and then, we all take our own spin on it. I'm able to get on social media. I'm able to talk to other coaches about what I do, with the running back position. And, just trying to exemplify those traits that make us a good program and have created a great culture within us. And, again, just pass those on to everybody that's, from the kids to the parents of the kids to even the teachers and the admin in the school, all that stuff. So it's just starts from the top. Everybody takes their own spin, and, we just try and make sure that we're upholding the high standards that we have here.
Yeah. What would you say your piece is? I know you talk about social media, but what is your piece of the Cedar Hill brand?
My piece really, again, it's trying to brand that running back position, trying to help those kids grow and to be better young men and better running backs. Again, we talk about house call a whole bunch, and, what all goes into that house call brand. It's not just scoring touchdowns and 1,000-yard rushers. It's about, selflessness, forget about me, I love you, family, and having pride in what you do and everything. So I think that's, whenever I leave or whatever happens, I want them to be able to say, Coach Kelley left this with Cedar Hill.
Yep, I love it. All right, man. Before we get into some inside zone, I want to go through the Chalk Talk special of the 2-minute drill. Just a few little questions, rapid fire. Feel free to take 10 or 15 seconds on each one of them. First one up, what would you do if you weren't coaching football right now? What would be your other job?
Man, I tell you what, something in journalism, honestly.
Journalism.
I'd probably be writing stories, some type of sports reporter or whatever it is, man. That's probably what it would end up being.
I like it, man. I haven't heard that. Favorite hobby?
Favorite hobby? Man, that is a tough one. It's probably playing Madden with my son. That's probably going to take the cake right there.
And that's a quarantine hobby. You can still do that during the quarantine.
Man, he loves to beat me, so I don't know what to tell y'all.
Who's his team? Is he the Cowboys or what?
No, he's a Denver Bronco. Again, my family, I grew up in Oregon, but we were originally from Denver. Okay. So we're big Denver Broncos fans over here. He loves being the Broncos, but, flavor of the week, he loves to play with Lamar Jackson. So, he likes to get 600 yards rushing with Lamar and just tear me up.
I love it. We had the NFL draft recently. How did the Broncos do? Did you follow it?
I love the Broncos picks, man. Jerry Jeudy, I love CeeDee Lamb. And I was hoping they were leaning towards him with that 15th pick, but they went Jerry Jeudy. They get KJ Hamler, the freaking speedy receiver slot from Penn State. Then they pick up the center from LSU. They got a whole bunch of great pieces trying to build that offense around Drew Lock. I'm excited to see what happens this next year.
John Elway, man. He's scheming over there. We are Niners folk out here. And so fresh off of collapsing in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, we feel like we did a good job. We got rid of DeForest Buckner, who had a big salary, obviously a really good player, but we got a big-time South Carolina D tackle. We got another first-round draft pick wide receiver from Arizona State. So we're crossing our fingers that Jimmy G back to the promised land.
Man, I got my doubts about Jimmy G, but he gets it done as long as Kyle Shanahan's running that rushing attack. I think you guys will be all right.
I might be able to run the offense on a play action on that. Yeah, I think we'll be all right. Best running back of all time.
Best running back of all time. That's a tough one, but I think I'm going to have to give it to Barry Sanders. Just because, growing up, man, I love watching his highlights. I never got a chance to watch him in person, just like I'm watching this Jordan documentary. Never got to watch him in person, but, just watching the highlights, man, joystick. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, best 2-yard runs we've ever seen, let alone the game breakers.
You're right.
Okay, best – I asked Ricklin this, Coach Holmes from John Tyler, when we had him on, and he said Stanley's Barbecue in East Texas. Best Texas barbecue.
This, it's not a restaurant, but I'm going to give props to our defensive ends coach.
Wow.
He makes the best barbecue I've had. He brings his grill. He'll smoke stuff outside when we're there on Saturdays. Ray Gates, defensive ends coach. He best barbecue in Texas.
Shout out Coach Gates. That's a big time shout out. We got to tag him and see if he can throw a picture on Twitter or something like that, so the fans can judge for themselves. But all right, man. Well, it's Chalk Talk time.
All right. So kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about is just how I coach the inside zone. Just real quick, we're going to talk about against a 4-man front. Again, we got quarterback. We're going to go offset right here. We're going to say we're playing a 4-3 defense essentially. We're going to be out of the 2x2 set. Say they're setting the strength away from the back. Will's kind of apexed out. Sam is kind of apexed out. Mike in the middle of the box. When I was a defensive coordinator at Dallas Adamson, everybody loves trips with a tight end, and they say it's the toughest formation. I think spread is, especially out of this too-high safety look, because it almost gives you a 5-man box. So what we're going to do, if we're running inside zone to the right, first thing we're going to do is we're trying to aim. Our aiming point is the inside foot of that guard. Okay, and what I tell the backs is, your first level read is this tackle. Okay, you could already anticipate, we're going to have our blocking. We're going to have our full zone right here. Okay, we're going to go right here. We're basically working a double right there. And then we're sealing this backside backer. So you can already dictate, based off of that blocking scheme, that this ball is probably going to hit right here off the inside of this right there. It's going to hit right there. We should get to that backer, and it gives us a good pre-snap picture. I'm always talking about anticipation as a running back. Now, obviously, stuff changes. If we're reading him and he cross faces right there, then obviously we have to adapt. The lineman will pick him up. But, again, that's just something that, I just want them to get that pre-snap picture. So, I'm talking to them about 3 techniques and 1 techniques and kind of how that changes the play. It doesn't change the play, but it changes the play. Mm-hmm. So, again, we're looking right here. Their pre-snap picture, they know the center is realistically stepping. The center is realistically stepping play side, keeping an eye, if he cross faces in, if he cross faces across the center. But, again, we know that he's working up to that backer. Okay, we should scoop this backside tackle, and we should work up to that mic. So now, pre-snap picture, looks like this ball should still hit front side A. Should hit front side A. We got them all moving. It should hit right in that gap. Obviously, the gaps move as the play goes. Defensive linemen move. But that's just – I tell them always make sure you get your pre-snap picture before that ball is snapped. Okay, now let's say that they're in an under front. I lost the center. O-line coaches are going to be mad.
You go.
Okay. So let's say that they're in an under front. So now they're setting a 1 opposite our back. Okay, we'll say that's under front for most people, setting the strength to the back. Okay, and we're still running inside zone. Well, we know our play side tackle is still our first level read. Okay, we're aiming that inside foot. We know the offensive line is stepping play side. So we still got our double here. We got a base basically on the end. We're going to step play side, and we're going to try and scoop this backside tackle here. But now we know that the bubble of the play right now is really sitting right here. So again, we should get that defensive tackle ideal. We should get him moved. We got a double team on the one right here because it's essentially going to be play side. Guard's going to be giving hand help to the center with that one, and they're going to be working up to that backer. But now we know, realistically, we may end up hitting backside A. They're still looking at that inside. They're aiming points the inside foot of this guard. So they're going to end up still taking their path, but being running backs, getting that pre-snap picture. Now we're looking at maybe out the back door. So those are probably the biggest things, when we're talking about inside zone. We want to make sure that we get our first level read, because then now we're able to expand. Let's say we work that one day. Okay, and the next day we're still working our inside zone, and now we want to make our first level read, which is in the red triangle, the defensive lineman, to our play side linebacker read. Okay, so now we know he feels the tackle still in this gap, and we got help. He flows over the top. Now we definitely know it's going to hit backside. Well, if we make our first level read and he still feels this A gap, now he's feeling right here his gap responsibility. Now we're probably going to have to go a little bit wider and may even hit front side B. Okay, so those are just the progression of, how do we teach this? How do we teach the running back position? And especially on inside zone, you don't want to give them too much, but you still want them to feel good. And, again, trying to anticipate what they're about to run the ball into.
Yeah. It's kind of a balance, right? Like I'm not a running back. I'm gravitating towards the D lineman because that's my experience. But it's a balance of you wanted to play fast. You want to give them enough information but not overload them. What does it look like right now? No spring ball, state of Texas. Is it a lot of this illustration going on right now in the running back room at Cedar Hill High School?
Yeah, like I said, man, we got on
the
a
running
Google
back
Hangout.
Zoom room?
Yeah, the Zoom room. Yeah, man, we got on, talk a little bit about this. We're going to talk about some of our base run and our pass protection. Again, like I told the guys, I felt like this is a great opportunity to not only make y'all better running backs, but better football players. You get to see the whole, you get to try and you get extra time to understand how defenses are trying to take you out of the game. So, how that you learn what they're trying to do. So now you could be even better as a player and shoot. Like watching the Jordan documentary, man, listening to Dennis Rodman talk about how he, how they play, how he learned how each shot was coming off the rim from either his own teammates or his opponents, where it would hit and the sound it would make, the spin, just that type of stuff, that type of preparation, because you get a little bit extra time to just learn to be a better football player.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that documentary's been fun. Like we were saying, there's not a lot on TV right now, sports wise, and so we're all hoping that some of these restrictions will get lifted and we'll have something to watch here. What are you hearing out there in Texas? What are your expectations for the fall?
Man, they actually, Governor Abbott just said that, we're going to start opening up some businesses at 25% capacity. Okay. So we're going to start reopening those, I believe, on the 30th. Trying to get everything open, I believe, was my understanding, the salons, the barbershops, trying to get those opened up basically by mid-May, late May. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about, coronavirus specifically as, the timeline. But, I mean, that's just going off what Governor Abbott's saying. And, I'm hoping that it gets us some amount where we could get a summer workout in. Mm-hmm. And, before we get into practice, and we gotta go play some good competition.
Yeah, definitely. Expectations for your program this fall?
We always talk about our vision, man, is DPS, district playoff state. We want to win district. We want to play, on or after Thanksgiving, and then we want to win a state championship. And that's always going to be the goal at Cedar Hill. And every time we don't reach it, it's, you feel like you failed in some way or aspect. But we've made strides these past 2 years, and I feel like it's gonna be a really good season for us. I think we're gonna do something special.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. I know that it's a different kind of season, but you're doing good work. You're making a good impact on your community, and I know definitely in your running back Zoom room and at Cedar Hill, but all across the country. So thanks for all that you do. Health to you and your wife, especially as you expect your newborn, and we'll catch up with you down the road, man.
Likewise, brother. I appreciate y'all having me on Stay Inside and TTHL.
All right, man. Poke 'em.